Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Nick Smith. And if you've ever wondered what it takes to go from ballroom dancing to the big screen, you're going to want to stay live for this show. So join me in just a minute. We're going to wake up your inner giant. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Nick Smith, co-founder of the 12 Journeys Coaching, Wake Up with Giants TV, author of The Giants and the Smalls, Tortoise's Hair, and The Art of Accomplishment. My cohort, Ryan Morris, is off doing other things today, so he won't be joining us. But we have an incredible guest today. Before we get into that, I want to tie into some of the programs that we're running. Right now, we have our SG programs running. We're on SG 14. Which is our 14th cohort of the Sum Gigante programs. It's our 12 Journeys program to living a giant life, where we dive into your inner world, your outer growth, and ultimately the legacy and impact that you want to make in the world. And that's what this show is about. It's about really diving into people's stories to show you a demonstration of what could be a possibility for you in your life. You're going to gain philosophies for life. You're going to see a journey that might be similar to yours, where you can really learn and grow. And then you're going to be able to take some tools back into your life to really improve it in a new direction. And so we'd love for you to be a part of our 12 Journeys programs, as that's where we teach you how to be a giant in your life. And so if you'd like details on that, reach out to me and I'll get those to you. And I'm going to dive right in and introduce our guest. I've got Kyle Treu. Did I say that right? Treu?
Yes, sir.
He's on with me. So Kyle's story is one of true resilience and grit. He started competing in ballroom dancing at just 4 years old. And after a devastating car accident in 2014, he faced traumatic brain injury that could have ended his career. But Kyle fought through months of recovery and returned to professional dancing. These days, he's made his mark in the film industry, working on CBS and Paramount's 48 Hours. And he also is working on his new podcast, Treu Purpose, where he shares his journey of personal growth. So I'm honored to welcome Kyle Treu to the show. Thanks for being here.
I'm so happy to be here.
It's good to have you, man. We're going to see comments come up like this. Some of these people you'll know. You're welcome to tackle these as they do come up. And I think it adds to whatever we talk about. But I really like to explore where you came from. What we do with this is we look at your non-conscious patterns, your subconscious patterns, who you thought you were as an identity. And a lot of that comes from upbringing and your family, culture, society, your own experiences. You thought you were somebody and you went through life acting as if that were true. And a lot of it was an adopted and adapted life that you brought into this world and made yours. I come from a big family. There's 11 kids. I'm number 9. So I got a lot of hand-me-downs. And sometimes those would fit. Sometimes they were too big and I had to grow into them. And I'd love for you to start somewhere in your life where you thought you were somebody or were something in the world. Can you give me some background on you?
Yeah. So I've been through, I don't want to compare with anybody because it's all apples and oranges. As many of you know, everybody goes through their own life journeys. However, for me, man, at only the age of 35, I feel as though that I've already lived 2 or 3 lifetimes of different experiences, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, and such. And how I used to feel was that I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to do X, Y, Z my whole life and get it all done. But then as things started to branch off from what I was originally planning on doing, it completely toppled and changed my life for the good and for the bad. Okay. Now, I'm going to take you back.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. I'll rewind. So essentially, when I was in university, I was doing the same thing in which my siblings have done. That is BYU Ballroom Dance Company, where we traveled the world with them, competed on a international stage, many different international stages. And it was all great. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get married. I'm going to be just like my siblings, which is I'm going to have a family and all that stuff. It's funny because as it stands right now, I'm looking at a new nephew and a new niece, and all my siblings are married and they all have houses and they all have little families. It's great. So happy for them. Me, on the other hand, I'm on a completely different timeline, and that's okay. And that's okay. But I feel as though that when I was back in university, I then was done with university team, ballroom dance team. I then suffered a car accident. And what had changed me was the immense amount of change was getting hit, of course.
Yeah.
And I realized, what is the purpose of life? I thought it was me doing all the things in the steps, right? I bet so many people can relate to these things because everybody thinks that they know what they're going to do. They know exactly what they're going to do. Now, it's good to have goals, but you need to have backup plans as well. And I didn't have any backup plan. So after the car accident and then recovery, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I feel so behind. And then after that, I was divorced. I then became divorced. And that is what changed me a ton. I was,
Okay.
oh my gosh, I'm the only man in my family that's divorced. I'm such a failure.
Okay.
I felt so bad about myself. I'm like, who am I? And then I got remarried. And then after that, that marriage, it was only like 9 months long. She ended up leaving me for her ex-boyfriend again, which happened not only once, but twice.
Huh.
I felt like, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me with these women? And it wasn't until after my career in Chicago, I felt as though that I had a lot more growth to do, growth to change.
Okay.
And I feel like the biggest thing that changed me was when my last girlfriend had left me. I was 55 pounds heavier. After I retired, of course, I retired from dancing. I then got other jobs. I gained all this weight. I became complacent in my everyday life, moved back to Utah. But gaining those 55 pounds and becoming complacent, that is what pushed my last girlfriend away. And I take accountability for that. And I then was slapped in the face, not once, twice, not the third time, but so many times after that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do something different. I've got to
Okay.
change. And so I'm kind of just spitballing here.
No, that's good. That's good. And we'll hang on to some of these because this is an anchoring point for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of self-judgment that comes up in people around who they think they are, who they think they're supposed to be, the ideals they have for life, what they think life should play out like. When it doesn't, they judge themselves even further. There's more criticalness about who we think we are. And that becomes, you know, a judgment of our identity, but the identity that we have is based on old experiences and patterns that have evolved over time.
Yeah.
And when you go through these awakening moments, this is important because without that awakening, there's no way to transform that into something more powerful or more useful.
Right.
And without ownership, there's no way to do that.
Right. And
So,
I never took ownership until the third time something life-changing had happened. Ending of a relationship. That's what I'm talking about. Goodness gracious. I mean, the first time I was divorced, I was so distraught, so emotional. I had no control over my emotions.
yeah.
I thought my world was ending. And then obviously it didn't. I then went back to school and I thought to myself, okay, I'm back on track to what I originally thought I was going to do. Go to school, finish my degree, all this other stuff. And then I went back and I finished, and that's where I met my second ex.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
2X.
right.
Yeah.
And
X squared.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we thought that we were going to compete and travel the world and do all this stuff. And it was great because we were both competing professionally together, teaching professionally together, her and I. And as COVID was hitting, that's when she decided, hey, I want to take off and I want to leave. And she left, and now she's remarried or not remarried, but she married her high school sweetheart. That doesn't matter. And then I thought to myself, oh my God, what's going on with me? Right. And I then got in another relationship, and that one lasted, 2-3 years. That was all good and dandy. And then that's when I got complacent within that relationship, and then she left.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, well, after the third time, this has just got to be a pattern. There's got to be something wrong with me. I'm thinking to myself, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to. What am I supposed to? Well, those things are the things that my family's always done and what I've been taught being raised up and such. And I kept trying to change little things here and there. Okay, this works, that doesn't work. But after the third one left, not wife, but the third girl, she left, and I take that accountability. I then was like, oh my gosh, I got to change 3 things. Now there's 3 things I really wanted to talk about along with your questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the stool in which I'm able to build a strong foundation to continue my life. The 3 stools are: number 1, physical. I had to change my physical body. I had to change it to get in shape so that I'm more strong, because I am under the strong belief that a strong body is a strong mind. And I can attest that many people can agree to that statement. Strong body is a strong mind. Number 2, financial literacy and becoming more financially free, and along with career. And so that leg is a continual growth. That's going to continue to grow. But I'm way better I am today than I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In regards to that, that's the second leg. And third, spiritual. Now, spiritual, a lot of people think that the word spiritual means, oh, what religion am I? Right? What I mean spiritual is mainly, what is your connection to God? Is it done through this way or that way? This way or that way, right? And I feel as though that because of me being raised up in an LDS family, that I thought that the one way is the only way to come to God. Now, I'm still on that journey, and I will be my entire life, that third leg.
Yeah.
However, I've had to take a big step back, meeting with other religious leaders, my bishop, who's a great bishop, by the way, even my own parents, my own family, my own friends, all these influences that have been able to help me along this journey as far as the spiritual goes. And I only know 2 things for certain. Number 1, God is real. And I believe that God, Jesus Christ, his son, and the Spirit are 3 separate beings. I know that for a fact. Well, in my heart. Second, that Christ is my Savior, Christ is King, and that only through him may I return to live with my Heavenly Father, with my God. And so those things are my principles as far as spiritual goes. But as far as any other religious belief behind that, doctrine and such, I'm not quite there yet, and that's okay. Yeah. That is okay. I feel like there are so many people out there that feel like I have to believe in XYZ in order to get ABC, but still got a lot of growth to do. So those are the three legs to live off of.
Yeah. So physical, financial, spiritual, and pretty similar, and those will affect all areas of life, our views.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, the idea of one religious view or one doctrine or one way of seeing the world is a challenge for me personally. I like to explore and stay open to the possibility that we might not know everything that we think we know. And so, playing with the idea here that you've come on this journey of really redefining yourself. I got a chance to write this book, The Giants and the Smalls, with Richard Paul Evans. Then I went through his training. And one of the things he said is that chaos is the mine of creation. That it's from the chaos that we really draw all the materials that we need to create our lives in any way we can imagine. So everything we need is already there. The raw materials, raw resources are there. And it's up to us to transform those into our creation, whatever that looks like, including ourselves. So you look at the chaos that happened in your life, you go through 2 divorces and a 3rd relationship, and it has you wake up to, who do I want to create myself as in the world? And now you're defining that as, you know, physical is important to me, financial is important to me, and spiritual is important to me. Not sure what that looks like yet, but it's important to me. And so you're starting to build yourself up on these 3 legs. And when we look at the giant's journey, what we mean by that is a person really identifies who they want to create themselves as in the world, and they start living into that potential. And our giantness is innate. It's already in there, but we play small in living up to other people's ideals, up to our cultural ideals, up to our societal ideals, up to our own ideals. And we find ourselves wanting between who we are currently and who we think we should be. And then we suffer between that. And that's including the 3 pillars that you just talked about, the 3 legs. And so I'd love for you to speak to that a little bit. Is what do you hold as your philosophy when it comes to navigating that gap between who you currently are and who you think you should be?
That is such a great question. And I feel as though that the instant thing I think of is understanding my role as a man.
Okay.
Leading into role as a masculine man. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could talk about regarding that, which goes along with my philosophy. But you're asking, what is the connections? What is the filling spaces between those 3 legs? And it's just that. It's understanding, what is it that me, Kyle, as a man has to do in order to feel more fulfilled in those 3 legs. And I want to make sure, is that correct? That's what you're asking?
Well, it's not making yourself okay with. It's a philosophy of, well, it kind of is, because you're accepting that your reality is what it is. So that's one level. You're accepting and acknowledging that your life was what it was. There's a distinction between acceptance and complacency. Complacency is settling for and resigning to your reality as it is, and resigning to being influenced or victim of your life the way it was, versus acknowledging that it is that and was that, and stepping into something more powerful. So what I'm looking for more is the philosophy of navigating where you are and where you think you should be, or where you think you're supposed to be, and how you play with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
And I'm going to push you to go deep here, because that's what I love. I love really diving into that and dissecting it.
Sure. You know, it's going along with what you could use whatever term you want, but I'm going to use the term psyop. What I mean by that is, what have I been from the people above, meaning my parents, my influences, like you're talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
What if they psyoped me to believe from when I was younger? What is it that Kyle has to do? Right. And here I am trying to discover on my own, what is it that I have to do? Right.
Yeah.
And I've been bombarded by so many different people, so many different influencers, and so many other things pulling me in different directions. But here I am trying to navigate, okay, what is it that I have to do? And pulling out from, you said complacency, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned complacency. And I feel as though that instead of settling for what it is that other people are thinking I need to do, go get a degree, go get a 9-to-5, do all that stuff that I'm going to use these terms too. That is the belief of what the Matrix, or what the people who are psyoping us, who want us to believe. Go get your degree, go get a house, go get in debt, have a family, get more debt, and pay your taxes and die, right? I'm thinking there's got to be much more to life than that. There's got to be much more. And so,
yeah, I'm not going to let you off easy here. It's
fine.
And let me help clarify that, and this will continue your thought.
Sure.
The idea of culture and society putting their ideals on us, but
Mhm.
also it's not that their way of thinking is what's in the way. It's what we think they're thinking that's in the way. It's what we think we should be doing. I'm going to play with a couple words here. I spoke about this week. Okay. The word should, meaning owing a debt, and supposed to be like we are supposed to live into some ideal, either self-generated or others generated. So that psyop that you talk about. But
Mhm.
in all cases, it's our own thinking about what we think others are thinking. And anytime there's an ideal there, there's a measurement between who we are and what we think we should be or what we're supposed to be. So we have this invisible debt that's created between our reality and that should, that psyopness.
Mhm.
And so that's where we create suffering, is between those two areas where we think we should be something, either by our own creation or what we think others have given us. And so that's the navigating point is, for many of us, we step into these ideals, and when we don't have a life that matches up to that, or we don't think we're measuring up to that, or we don't think we're measuring up to what we think others are thinking about that, then we suffer. And the truth is, it's all self-created. You create all of that. Even the psyopness as a definition, the matrix, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
the self-generation of that as the measurement. Oh, I think society wants me to grow, get a degree, go to school, and die paying taxes, is self-generated. Even though it's out there and people are saying it, we have to adapt it or assimilate it, right? Bring it into our world.
Right.
So, giving your philosophies of the three legs of those areas is, how do those three legs help you to navigate that so you're not creating suffering with what you think others think you should be doing or what you think you should be doing?
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. The word suffering is an interesting one
Yeah.
because I feel that for men, especially, because I can only speak for men,
Yeah.
'cause I'm a
Please
man.
do. Yeah.
For men, life is suffrage, right?
Okay.
And that's okay. Because if you think about the masculine and the feminine roles, which I know this may pull off a little bit of what you're
No, you're good. You're good. We're going to follow it where it goes. It's going to be perfect.
the masculine and feminine roles are not 110%, aren't they? This and that, right? They
Okay.
kind of intermingle a little bit because everybody, I do believe that there are those that have mentioned and said to me, oh, but every human being has masculine and feminine qualities. I actually agree with that. However, men need to be and should be more masculine, have a little bit of feminine qualities, and women should be more feminine and have a little bit of masculine qualities. That's okay. I get that. But when a man and a woman comes together, that's where the magic happens. So
Okay.
by a man and a woman understanding their roles, that is the most beautiful union in the world, right? Because that's what brings life. Right.
Yeah.
So, but rolling back here, I feel back to pain and suffrage for a man, understanding that I have things that must be done regardless of my emotional state because I'm a man, hence suffrage. That's just bottom line of things that I need to do, such as paying for things that supporting and the ones that I love, and for myself, providing, protecting. And I also believe that men should know how to provide empathy as well. That goes into a deeper discussion. But by understanding those roles as a man, that has helped me wake up from the
Mm.
psyop, what you were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
because I feel that culture and especially Western society has made men more weak, whether that be via the mass media, via the things that we see constantly on the news, social media, even by the things that we eat and consume. I feel as though that all of those things combined is decreasing the masculinity. I mean, think about this. This is so evident. All of these companies that are out there, oh, get more testosterone through medicine or through pills or whatever. 10, 15 years ago, none of that crap even was there, right? It's because there's such a lower level of testosterone around. Because I feel like that the whole psyop, the big dogs around, they're the ones that are trying to keep masculinity down, get us confused and such, so that we can't rise up. We can't think for ourselves.
Okay,
Like, back to becoming, paying our taxes and dying.
I'm gonna challenge that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
And I like it. I like where you're going with this, and I'm gonna challenge it. It's the buy-in to that is what I would frame that as. That would create people living into that buy-in. So as a possibility, this group that you talk about that could come in and offer a way of being, and it would be, you know, a lesser version of what you define as the masculine. Mm-hmm. And people buy into that, and now they start to live into that as their ideal. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that buy into that ideal now becomes what they're seeking and living into. So the psyop and everything you're saying there. So as they buy into that, they start to live into that, and they find that there's a gap between who they are and what they're trying to live into. But they bought into living into that. They're saying, okay, I'm going to do that because I think that's what I should be doing or could be doing. But then there's this distance between who they are and that, and what you're really trying to anchor back in is, I don't want to buy into that anymore. I don't want to live into that. So my way of building my masculinity for me is to live into my physical health, my financial health, and my spiritual health. Because as a man, those are the three pillars or legs that I see as areas that would get me beyond this other measurement that somebody else created that I didn't buy into.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so because I'm choosing now, notice your buy-in is into something else. You're no longer bought into that. And now there can be this space of judgment. You're saying in yourself, that no longer works for me. I'm not going to do that. So when you witness other people doing that, there can be this, I extinguish that in me, so I judge that in you because I won't live that way.
Yeah.
But not as a judgment of, I'm going to hold you down, more of a judgment of, hey man, wake up. There's more to life than what you're living here. And I want you to see that. That's what I hear, Kyle. Yeah. Is that your three legs that you're living into are your way of displaying that masculinity as you understand it and living beyond what you think the psyop or the matrix has given you as a possibility. You're saying, nah, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
Okay. Am I hearing you?
Absolutely. I love how you've been able to comprehend and take exactly what I'm saying and compartmentalize it into an easier way for others to understand. Yeah. Doing this, and I love it. So good job. I applaud you for that.
Well, and let's go a little deeper. So I'll give you the framework that I operate from, and it's the 12 journeys framework. It incorporates everything that we do in our work. But it's understanding when people can get into their roots and really understand how they're thinking and where that's coming from, then they can wake up like you're talking about. And the first 6 journeys that we have are all about who do you think you are and who do you think you're supposed to be? Because when you can recognize that and wake up to it, then you create awareness. But most of us are judging that awareness. We're criticizing ourselves. We're hard on ourselves because we think who we are is damaged, broken, not good enough, unworthy. We put all these judgments on it, but it's not that at all. It's only that we adopted somebody's or our own version of the world, and it's not working for us.
Right.
And so then we teach people how to navigate their heavy emotions so that those don't overwhelm their thinking. And then we teach them how to accept and acknowledge their life. The 4th journey, and 5th is gratitude, and 6th is empowerment. How do you not only anchor yourself in, but how do you make yourself even more powerful? And so those 6 journeys, unless people tackle those, then they just go through life. And like Carl Jung says, they start calling it fate and destiny. Oh, I'm destined to this, or I'm fated for that. Right. But it's not true. And you're finding that out when you wake up. And that's the beauty of your experiences, the accident, the 3 relationships that failed, shifting careers. It's like you're waking up to, okay, I've lived everybody else's version of me. It's time for me to live my version of me. What does that bring up for you?
Wow. what that brings up for me. That's what you're asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I love that, man, you compartmentalized it so well. You said it so compendiously. I feel like it's just that I'm waking up to it. I'm waking up to more things and more potential. And I also I'm going to go back to what you did mention.
Yeah. Please.
It's not fate. It's not that hullabaloo stuff.
Yeah.
Those people who believe in the zodiac and believe that the stars are what define you, I don't believe in that crap. But that's okay.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
each their own, right? To each their own. But waking up to what I thought should be me, to the now, which I still have yet to discover a lot more.
Yeah, I get that. I hear that, and that's perfect.
It's so much more. I'm really struggling to put this out there. I'm also holding back on a lot of things too.
Yeah, you be as open as you want to be here.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable, then share it. A lot of people play safe vulnerability. They will share as much as they feel safe sharing.
Right.
And that's totally up to you.
Right.
But this is, and in a way, we're doing some coaching here, but your journey is needed for people to see. Like, people are at different levels of their journeys.
Right.
And on this show, we've had 300 interviews that we've done. And some people are pretty advanced in their journey, and some people are just getting started in their journey. And so there's no wrong place to be. It's a fractal. Right. It's in scale. Everybody's just at different places. That's it on the map. So what I'm offering here is just permission to be as vulnerable as you want to be, and we'll play with it.
Okay? Wonderful. That's fair? Good to hear. Yeah. I feel as the continual conversation, the conversation will continue. I'll open up more and more and more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've obviously touched on some things that I feel very, very strongly about, such as 3 legs and the masculine and feminine roles, and even the matrix and the psyop and all that stuff. And I feel like through our conversation, your questions have been making me rethink a few things as well, which is great. That's a part of life. And those people who feel like they know everything, oh man, they're in for some rude awakenings, like was back in the day. So
I used to know everything. Really created a lot of suffering.
Right. And that's okay. That's okay. That's a part of it.
So, tying this in is, until people really open up to and start questioning that identity that we carry, who we think we are, and really look at, where did that even come from? Did I create that? And what that generates. I talked about the other day, our thoughts and sensations and behaviors aren't what's at play. They are effects of what's at play, who you think you are. So your core self, your identity, is what generates the thoughts you pay attention to. It's what generates the sensations that come from those thoughts. It's what generates the behaviors that come from those thoughts and sensations. And what we tend to do is we focus on the emissions from who we think we are versus who we are. And when we can get intentional about who we are, like what you're doing is you're redefining who you are, and that's going to affect everything that comes out of you. If we look at the sun, if you were to try and understand the sun from the flames that come off of it, you'd have a hard time understanding the sun. Although you'd have some sense because of the chemicals that are coming off of it, right? The hydrogen, oxygen, all that stuff, the fire flame. You would have some understanding of the sun because of what's coming from it. And with us, what happens is we think we're our thoughts, 50,000 to 70,000 a day thoughts, 0.8 thoughts a second. It's a lot. We think we're that. And then we feel the sensations from that. And we think that we're those sensations, and we're none of that. We're something at the core of that. And that's what needs to be redefined. And that's what I hear you doing, is you're waking up to, I used to have a core that was something else. And it didn't work for me. What was coming off of that wasn't serving me. And now that I'm waking up to that, I'm intentionally using the thoughts that I notice coming off of it to rewrite that core self to a more masculine, more responsible, physically fit, financially fit, spiritually fit man in my world. That's who I want to be.
Yeah.
I'll let
Exactly.
you take it from there. Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. And that is me essentially waking up.
Yeah. It's powerful.
It is. It's so powerful. And I have so much more growth to happen. I have so much more to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And through relationships, through non-relationships. And I
Yeah.
certainly, here's something that's I find interesting. I feel as though that I've been able to become more perspicacious on what's happening around me. Let's just take an example. When dating, here I am, I'm dating someone and I start to fall, the emotions, all that involved. I have to step back consistently. I have to do like checkpoints. Okay, step back for a second and think more logical about things, because that's was the beginning of the cycle of the circle of me jumping into relationships and then boom, fail, boom, fail, boom, fail. And I don't want to repeat that again. So
Yeah.
I'm finding myself doing checkpoints along the way. Okay, step back, be perspicacious, and think, okay, where am I now? Why am I feeling this emotion? And XYZ. So
Yeah.
that's, man, that's been, I'm just so fearful of falling into those same patterns and relationships. I'm talking about relationships, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay.
Because,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you what, when it comes to being a man and relationships, who you decide to be with, oh my gosh, that can define your success or define your ultimate failure and demise. Right? And I do not want to get this wrong this next
Okay.
next
So,
time.
okay. Yeah. See, I'm going to, you're
That's a
opening
whole
doors
other,
for me.
that's a whole
Yeah.
other, opening
So
lots of doors here.
I love a relationship because relationship really wakes you up to who you're being. It's a mirror. It's a perfect mirror of who you're being.
Mhm.
And it's not about the other person. It's who you're being in that relationship in relation to another. And there are things that will not come up outside of relationship. They just can't
Mhm.
until you get in front of that mirror and you start to see this is who I am in relation. And it really has you wake up even more. And some people aren't prepared to do that. What I see is a lot of people, especially not after our programs, but before, is they want to blame that. They want to drink that away or drug that away or sex that away or some other addiction that away so they don't have to feel that discomfort instead of looking in the mirror and really sitting with it.
Mhm.
And there's so much opportunity in just being in a relationship that's challenging for yourself, because now you have a chance to look at who you're being in relation to another human being.
Mhm.
And think about the phrasing of that, who you're being in relation to another human that's also being.
Yeah.
And so it has nothing, what the way they show up has nothing to do with you, but the reflection that's coming back to you has everything to do with you. And when you take ownership of that, like you are,
Mhm.
to create as a fear, I don't want to go back to who I was in relation to another human being. So therefore, I'm committed to getting myself, because these are the areas I think that will help me to be a better man in a relationship with another woman.
Mhm.
Right. What's that bringing up? I want to just like play with that for a little bit. Is what does that drum up in you as you hear that?
As I'm hearing that, I have to go back to what is it that I need to do as a man? And I said need to do. And I know that
Yeah.
you mentioned, oh, well, needing is something that you're attaching yourself to, that, right? Whether it be
Yeah.
over here or over here. You need to do this because of this says you have to, or this over here says you have to do it because of whatever.
Yeah.
But what I feel as though that I need to do is become that protector, that provider, and that provider of empathy. Those three things are so key. I know I mentioned this earlier. Those
Protector, provider of empathy.
correct. I know
Okay.
that people, they like to touch on when it comes to being masculine and that masculine role and the man's role. They say protect and provide, and that's it.
Mm.
But I can't imagine a relationship without at least a level of empathy.
Yeah. How do you relate?
Right? Well, how I can relate?
How would you relate without empathy?
Right,
That would
right.
that would be a challenge. Yeah.
It
That
would
was
be
a
so
yeah.
hard because think about it. It's like if this big old man that's rich and powerful and can protect or can provide for his woman and also protect and protect, right? Those
Okay.
two things, that's just going to be a brainless, empty, no relationship, no heartfelt feeling with the other person. So if you don't have a level of empathy for your partner, then you won't be able to connect on a spiritual level, won't be able to feel those lovey-dovey feelings, the feelings of love, and the emotional connection will not be there if you
Yeah.
can't provide empathy, So that's why I add, you got to be able to provide empathy for your partner as well into protection and provision.
Yeah, that seems like a stable base, as I put it in context to what framework I work from, and I think it applies to everything, is that, those three pillars of I am physically strong as a protector, I'm financially strong as a provider, I'm spiritually strong as an empathetic listener and lover of another human being.
Yeah.
That I'm able to connect, actually heartfelt connection with another human being. Not only know them. I was looking at the word the other day of the difference between a friend and a connection or an acquaintance. And the word friend is Germanic and it means to love somebody. And the word acquaintance means to know somebody. And when we get into relationship between an acquaintance and a friend, and now a relationship where it's even more than that friend, it's actually at a deeper level of connection. It's protector, provider, empathetic listener. It's really moving from acquaintance to friend to lover, right? And that right there, where you feel more secure in yourself, you're able to feel that and bring that security to another human being. Because if you're insecure in relation to another person, then that's going to show up in the relationship.
Right.
So the more, like you say, develop yourself into being that provider, protector, and empathizer, that's where you feel your confidence and you're able to show up more powerfully for your next relationship. And there's a degree of not knowing, because you haven't gone back in with the new learning, right?
Of course.
So what would happen if you didn't dive back in? If you decided, I'm going to learn these three pillars, but I'm never getting in a relationship again.
That thought process of not going to get another relationship again, I can relate to, because after let's just say a year and a half ago, when I just started this, well, maybe 2 years ago, my woman, she left me. And I felt so down on myself. And I said, I got to wake up and do something different. And then I discovered these pillars. Throughout that time period from now to then, I've gone through, I like this girl. I like this girl. I'm dating this person a little bit here and there, blah, 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 blah. But not once did I ever tell myself, I am never going to love again. Women are all bad. I'm never going to say that, because that right there is totally limiting yourself as not only a human being, but as a man. Because what is it that I need to do? What do I need to do that I believe? Number one, I need to praise my ancestors, and because they didn't go through what they had to do in order to get me to just be here and not have any kids or not have a family. So I have to have kids. I have to have a woman. I have to do something. Right. And so I'm allowing myself to, okay, if I feel emotionally connected to someone, I'm going to let it happen. But I still have to be perspicacious and logical in what I'm doing. All right. But back to, that was a whole bunch of stuff, but back to exactly what we were just discussing. And that is my experience. Here's a more specific scenario that I'm going to paint for you. So I really, really liked this girl. This was last summer. I really liked her a lot. And I thought to myself, what is the feelings that I'm feeling? And I left. I'm going to be more specific. I walked out of the building in which I was. When she came into the room, I felt some weird feelings. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I feeling? I left the room. I left the dance hall that I was in.
Yeah.
I went around the building. Wow, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
I went around the building and I got down on my knees and I started to not sob, but started to cry and start to feel all these a little bit of anger crazy amount of emotion.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I feeling this way? What am I feeling? And then I came back out, and one of my best friends, she saw me leave the room, and she followed me. And we went around her car, and she says, dude, what's going on? Are you okay? And I said, well, I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know why I'm feeling this way when this person that I liked at the time came into the room. And she says to me, after all this hullabaloo and discussion, the one thing that she said to me that I remember is she said, Kyle, you're feeling the feelings of love for the first time in a long time. I was like, the first time in a long time. Let's break that down. Number one, I was the type of guy who was always in relationships. As soon as I ended a relationship, I was in the next one within 3 months. Wild. Ever since high school. You know, I felt as though that I was the type of person who always had to have someone, and I wasn't comfortable being alone yet. But after being alone for almost about a year and a half, this experience happened. And she said, Kyle, you're feeling the feelings of love and care for someone that you love so much. I was like, oh, is that what I'm feeling? So since then, I've evaluated that a lot, and I would agree to that statement. Yeah, I'm feeling those emotions. Anyways, so that's a little bit more specific, but ever since then, I'm allowing myself to quote unquote fall in love again and be okay with another relationship.
Yeah. I want to hit on a couple of things that you shared. You mentioned I need to, I have to, I should. There's still some of those present for you. And I think this is such a great place to be, because it demonstrates for somebody that's watching this, those that are, because there are people watching this live right now, and they'll watch it after as well. But it's a demonstration that we are all at different levels of our journeys, and they're so unique to us that nobody's going to have the exact same journey as us, but they can have an understanding of and a relation to that. And so I want to acknowledge that first. But the second thing is that when we create this ideal, who I should be, and you talked about ancestors and family, like how could I not have a kid or do something with my life? How would they look at me? And it's this thought of you thinking of that and then creating an ideal around that. Oh, I have to, I need to, I should.
Yeah.
And now that becomes this pressure point, an intentional point of I'm going to live into these ideals and shoulds that I have for life. Now, if we really step back from it, they are simply possibilities. Like you could do all those things, but we turn them into requirements for us to have a peaceful life. I will be peaceful when I live up to that. And until I live up to that, I have this unseen debt that I've created for myself about where I am at and what I think I should be doing. That debt. I need to, I have to, I should. The reality is you could. No requirement. And you have the capability and the potential to create all of that. And if we can turn that, this is where I want to play, is if we could turn that into I could do these things, I can do these things, I'm capable of these things. It's up to me if I want to take that on or not. Then it becomes a playground versus a boot camp, I guess would be the way, right?
Right.
What do you hear in that for you?
It's interesting that you've not only once, you've probably 3 or 4 times throughout this entire conversation come back to I need or I want. And here I was at the beginning of this conversation saying, oh, I'm not going to do what the PSYOP is telling us to do, right? I'm going to do my own thing, but I'm still attaching myself to something else. I need, I want, right? Which is okay with me. I'm okay with that. I've accepted that, rather than being like a, what is it called? A gypsy or someone that like those hippies. Oh, life is good. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to live up to any ideals. I feel like that is not good because you won't really get very far.
No. And rather than just flowing through life without a direction.
Right. You have to have direction. You have to.
So, but the playground, you'll play with me on this for a minute, right? Their intention is powerful. The word
Right.
intention comes from Latin intendere. It means to stretch, to
Mhm.
lean towards something. And that's powerful because that's where we grow. When we stretch things, they grow. If we
Mhm.
stretch them too far, sometimes we break, just like muscles, everything else.
Right.
But when we have an intention, we know where we're leaning into and we're moving toward that. I think where we create our challenges is that we think we have to do that intention. It's a requirement to do that intention. And if we don't, then we judge ourselves as failing when we don't measure up to that intention. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That's okay. I personally am okay with that because having that direction and having those goals, and
Yeah.
you fail or succeed, you either feel bad on you're hard on yourself if you fail. I think that's okay because
Yeah.
it's part of life.
Okay.
I think it's okay because I feel like if you were to not like that process of being down on yourself, being happy about your success, what are you doing? I feel like
It
without
drives you.
right,
Yeah.
the driving, that's totally a good thing to say that you mentioned what drives me. And
Yeah.
so without that guidance, without that goal that I'm looking forward to, whether I'm hard on myself or not, I'll never get anywhere in life.
Yeah.
Hence the hippie, or hence the zodiac, or hence all those
Yeah. Just flowing with life.
going with the wind, which is not right to me.
Yeah.
I don't innately feel like that is a good place to be. I
Yeah.
feel like I need to have those things, those things that are showing me, okay, I need to get XYZ. I need to do all XYZ and ABC in my
Yeah.
life in order to. But then again, it goes back to the very beginning of our conversation of waking up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I feel like I've waken up to certain aspects of what it is that I want to do.
Yeah. And
To
I see that. Like, okay, so you are very clear in your wording. You're saying, not for me, innately, that's not me. I don't want to live a gypsy life. I don't want to live a life where I just flow through and I don't have intentions. For me, my drive is to set something that I can work toward and push myself and see what I can create. And the distinction, and I think we're speaking the same language here, is
yeah,
you want to create a vision, and that vision is going to create hope for a brighter future, and that gives you something to intend for, to move toward, right? But when it becomes a requirement, if I don't reach that intention, then I judge myself as a failure, as no good, as broken, unworthy.
uh-huh.
Then that's where we create our own suffering.
Right.
But if I have a vision like you're talking about, and I can lean toward that and push myself, and it becomes more of, what am I capable of? Let's see what this puppy can do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can
I
you
like
hear that? Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because some people, they think, oh, you're making your life hard by being hard on yourself. Duh.
Yeah.
That-
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good thing because
Yeah.
as a man, forgive my French, nobody gives a fuck about us.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is a harsh thing to hear,
Okay.
but that's so true. We have to make sure that we build ourselves up, meaning we have the work to do
Yeah.
just ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those feelings of shame and those feelings of the world's going to be hard on us and we're being hard on ourselves, that's a good thing. Because
Yeah.
how does that make you grow? How do things make something grow? By breaking it down. It's like a muscle, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, here I am. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm 35, and I had to break my body down in order to make it stronger. So
Yeah.
life is about suffrage as a man
Yeah.
and about trials in order to make us stronger for.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Right?
And so again, I will never say that all the harsh things that happen in life are so sad and we're making things hard for ourselves. Pity me, pity me. No, the world doesn't give a crap about us. And so we have to wake up and, as men, and step forward into our trials, into our suffrage, and be okay with that.
Yeah. And it gives you those experiences, empathy for another person that's going through something that might be mirroring that, right?
Exactly. I love
Right.
that. Exactly.
And for you, to look at your pathway, your journey, to go from a family that was a ballroom dancing family, starting at 4 years old, you were conditioned. This is who we are as a family. This is how you show up in the world. This is your religion. This is what you're assigned all these things. And then you wake up to, that's not really fitting me anymore. And then you go on your own journey of moving into film. You're working with CBS and Paramount now, 48 hours. You've found your own pathway and you're starting to really step into that and find your stride. I wish I would have known this at 35. I'm 49 now. I started waking up, truly waking up when I was about 43, 44 years old. And I'm grateful I did. It's never too late.
Yeah.
But to be at 35, waking up to that, stepping into your journey will be a demonstration to others. There are going to be others that witness your journey and go, dude, I love what you're up to, Kyle. I want to know how you're doing it, what you're up to. And you come back to them and say, well, these are the 3 pillars I focused on. They might work for you. You want to try them on?
Right.
And it's an invitation, right? There's no obligation in this.
Right. Right.
So I think so many of us are living what we perceive to be obligated lives.
Yeah.
And really what you're creating here is an invitation. Like, here's a possibility. You're invited if you want to come. This is the way I'm doing it. I'm doing the same thing. I use the 12 journey. You're invited if you want to come check it out, but there's no obligation in that. Many ways to get there.
Right.
Yeah. What would you hold as a, as we talk to our viewers today, if there was a question you wish somebody would just ask you, or a statement you wish you could just share with the person that's on the other side of the screen, what would that be?
An invitation that I would like to share with people on the other side of the screen. Well, I think I would go back to what I said about the world not caring about us.
Okay.
I would say that because the world doesn't care about us, there may be those that are close to us, like our friends or even our lovers or whatever, that say that they care about us. I'm not going to put them down, of course.
Sure.
But it's true. The only person that cares about us is us, right? Because we're invested in ourselves, and we're only invested in ourselves only because of what we have, what we've been given.
Yeah.
So, like, for you, I care about you as a human being. I would never wish anything ill of you. But honestly, after this conversation's over, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to think about our experience that we had together. But I'm going to continue on with my day on what is helpful for me. And I'm going to forget about you as a person, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a harsh way, but I'm saying that's the reality of it, right? And so, because the world doesn't care about us, we have to use that as an understanding that, okay, is that going to drive us to accomplish our goals? Or is that going to become a thing of victimizing ourselves? Oh, nobody cares. No, boo boo,
Yeah.
No, F that. It's like, we need to just know that since people don't care, or since the world doesn't care about us, we have to do things on our own.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And if someone were to hear that portion of my statement and they'd be like, no, people care about you and blah, blah, blah. No, listen.
Put it in context, right?
Right.
Here's this question for you here. What's it like being Kyle today?
Oh, great question, Hugh. I feel I love me. Cool. I love me who I am now rather than how I was 2 years ago, even 1 year ago. And, anything in the past. Me now, man, even though I'm harder on myself now, I'm the happiest I've ever been ever in my life, because I feel like I know exactly, maybe not exactly, but I know what I must do and what needs to be done in order to get to X.
Yeah. Yeah. And we love the X around here. X is, it's one of those letters that can mean anything you want. Right. It's a marker on a map. It's a destination on a map. Mm-hmm. It really is. And it's so unique. X is unique. It's up to the individual. So when I listen to your journey here, I appreciate it because it's one more way that people can live life. It's one more possibility. Just like mine is a possibility. Your way is a possibility. It's a way to be more masculine in your world. It's a way to really own where you're at. I hear so much ownership in your language.
Oh, that's
yeah, well, I do. I do. It's you say, this is how I think about it. This is my perspective. This is my innateness. This is not my innateness. There's a lot of ownership in that. And I think that's empowering because when you take ownership, then you possess your life. Otherwise, I talked about this a little while back too, is if you don't possess your life possesses you. And when you take ownership, you start to possess your life.
right.
But if you're always putting the debt on somebody else, then you're in possession. You're possessed.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Not one time in the last, I don't know, a year, maybe 2 years, I've victimized myself. I'm never going to play the victim because when a mistake happens, whose fault is it? It's mine.
Yeah.
Even if it involves someone else, it was my mistake.
Yeah.
Right. Because what is it that this is probably the most important thing that if anyone were to tune in right now, this is the most important belief that I have. That is asking the question, what is it that we are in control of? Right? Which is just our minds. That's the only thing we truly have control over. We can't even control our body. Like, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't even know when our heart's going to stop. We don't know if we're going to get hit by a garbage truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. We don't know. We certainly can't control
personal experience.
Right. We certainly can't control others.
Yeah.
By understanding those things and knowing that we're only in control of one thing, which is our mind. Okay. What can we accomplish, whether it be physical or what can we accomplish, elsewhere by controlling our minds and our emotions? Man, there's so much more that I want to unpack with that.
I know. And we could, let's take a few minutes, right? Let's take a few minutes because we have a little bit of time here. Okay. And we won't drag it out too long.
And I'm worried about it. So
no, you're good. You're good. We're it's my show. We get to extend the time. I control the timer. The idea here of really like you really just like hit the meat right there, and we won't go too long here, but we determine when we look at control is we have ideals of how the world should go, how other people should engage in that world, how things should turn out, who we should be. We try and manipulate the outcome, and we call that peace and control. And it's not peaceful in any way. And what I hear you speaking to is surrender, which is one of our journeys. The 10th journey is surrender. Is you don't know when your heart's going to stop beating. You don't know how your muscles are going to break down. You can't control it. You can't add to your stature. You can't beat your heart. You can't even breathe yourself. But we get so frustrated with things not going the way we think it should go.
Right.
And man, even the journey you're on to become this masculine man that's spiritual, physical, and financially stable. There are outcomes that are going to be outside of that. You're going to do what you can do, but the outcomes they're independent of you.
Right.
Yeah. Speak to that a bit more.
Speaking to that, I would go to the word stoicism.
Okay.
As a man, I feel as though that men need to understand what stoicism is.
Okay.
And that goes along with being an understanding that we can only control our brain, that we can only control what we think, what we do with our brain. We can't control others, which also goes into the realm of emotional control. Now, back in maybe the 50s, 60s, back in those days where men were taught to just, toughen up, buttercup.
Yeah.
And don't be emotional. Don't cry. I agree to that, but only to a degree.
Yeah.
Stoicism for me is understanding that we can only control our emotions, and when is the time that we want to show those emotions. Let me give you an example. understanding time and place for emotional control is important to me for this. When I left a dance venue, I felt sad. This is an exact thing
Yeah.
that happened to me. I felt sad. Was I going to call and cry to all my friends and people? No, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to keep that to myself. But I set a time frame in which to feel those emotions. So what I did physically is I decided, okay, during my 30-minute drive home, I'm going to bawl my eyes out. I set a time and place for that. And as soon as I pull into the drive, I'm then going to have processed those emotions and I'm going to move the F on with my life. Because I have things to do. I have things that must be done regardless of my emotional state.
Yeah.
And by being in a crying, sad mood, those emotions are not going to serve me and what needs to be done. So I let that time frame pass. I cried my eyes out and I felt better.
I like it. Yeah.
Again, that goes against the thought process of men don't ever feel emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Right? Which I didn't push them down. I let them rise up, use it in a specific time or place, and then I moved on with my life.
Yeah.
Right? It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Letting yourself feel emotions. And back to the whole being empathetic for your partner thing. As men, how can we be empathetic for our woman or for our people that we care about if we're not in the right emotional mindset to be empathetic, right? Because if let's just say that I was super crying and super emotional for my empathetic partner who's trying to do the same thing, let her emotions out, that's just going to become a combobulated mess of emotions, right? Who knows what's going to happen, right? I don't even want to think about that.
Yeah.
It's back to the whole principle, which is as a man, being stoic enough to understand the principle of time and place with our emotions is so
beautiful.
Important.
Yeah, beautiful. Lisa Feldman Barrett, one of the top researchers on emotion, she talks about that our emotions are our brain's way of making sense of the bodily sensations that are being triggered by our interactions with the environment. And when we label those emotions, we make judgments about those sensations in the body. And in order for us to heal, Edith Eger talks about this, in order to heal, we have to express things. And if we don't express them, they bottle up in the body. And like you said, we're unable to be empathetic with another person because we can't even be empathetic with ourselves.
Right.
So, but also allowing for the emotions to be there and expressing those, and then moving forward, because what I hear there is grief, right? I'm sad. I'm feeling grief. I'm going to feel my grief. I'm not going to move on, but I'm going to move forward. And those emotions can be there and they can be present. But I got work to do. I gotta re-engage here and move in a new direction, right? The re-engagement is a big thing,
right?
So that's a very healthy, to me, a very healthy view of allowing emotions, because when you're fully stoic, there's no room for emotion, and our society shows that when you stifle emotions in men or women, you're going to cause some damage. They need to be expressed. That's where trauma comes in,
right?
And so, yeah, I think it's a powerful view.
I want to just, for the viewers and for those that aren't in and out, I want to make sure that we can state my personal philosophy and on emotions and the process as simple as possible.
Yeah, please.
I want to be as compendious as possible here. So my belief in emotions is, especially as a man, because we've got to be empathetic for those around us, is when you feel a specific emotion, something happens, pick the time and the place which would best suit that emotion. Once you pick a time and a place to feel that emotion, you let that emotion happen. You let your mind go through that process of whatever that emotion may be, happiness, sadness, whatever. Don't bottle it up. If you do that, then bad things can happen. We all know this. After processing those emotions, you then move on with your life to get what needs to be done.
Yeah. Awesome. We got this question for you.
Love that. This this could open up a whole can of worms, but that's okay.
Yeah.
What does this necklace mean? In fact, I have this logo all around my all around my little apartment I have. And on the back side, it says something. I'll read it to you guys. It says, "In the darkest hour when the demons come, call on me, brother. We will fight them together."
Hmm.
This logo is the Tates. Those of you who know who the Tates are, regardless on what stance you are with them, this is from the Tates, Andrew and Tristan Tate. And I did mention that 2 years ago, waking up from my failed relationship and all this stuff, and what is it that I need to do? I found myself attaching myself to their philosophies.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but much of what they believe in. Not everything I agree with. As far as changing my life around and stuff like that. And because of that, I've changed my life over the last 2 years, which has been uber success, financial, spiritual, and physical.
Hmm.
So this is the Andrew and Tristan Tate's logo. I have that logo all over the place. There's actually a quote that I want to share.
Yeah, please do.
Everybody. This quote comes from the Tate's father. His name was Emery Tate. And this quote is plastered in every single room of my place. 2-bedroom apartment. It's not that big.
Yeah.
But I have it all over. The quote is this: "My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor."
Nice.
That
Untiring. Yeah.
That quote is so freaking powerful. I love it. And that
Say it one more time for us.
"My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor."
Yeah.
So in order to break that down, let's break this down, shall we?
Yeah.
So my unmatched perspicacity, meaning, well, what is perspicacity? Perspicacity is being able to pull back from a situation and see it as a whole, being shrewd, essentially. So my unmatched perspicacity, meaning no other human being can match my innate or my ability to perceive everything.
To perceive, right? Yeah.
My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability.
Yeah.
Well,
Great word. Yeah.
That word indefatigability is essentially being, I cannot be defeated.
Untirable. You can't be tired out. Indefatigable, right? So yeah.
Coupled with indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor, meaning that whatever it is that I decide to engage in, whether it be my boxing, or my career, or even my empathy that I want to provide for my woman, I will be the most powerful in doing said activity or a said thing, right?
Yeah.
And now I realize that quote can be rather, people can say that quote is like tyrannical or too strong or being too puffed up. You can say that quote's too puffed up, but I disagree, because having a strong quote like that to build my mindset around is what has made me the man I am today.
That's awesome.
And if someone doesn't like me for the man that I am today, great. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to live my life the way I feel that's serving me. And so far from those, I love that. Hugh Jacobson said male confidence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, if a human being agrees 100% with another human being, I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem. So
we have our differences for sure. Yeah. Let me we're going to go ahead and wrap up here, but let me have you give a final thought. Like what do you want to give as a wrap up here?
A wrap up would
be
a
takeaway. Yep.
A takeaway would be, for my personal philosophies, which we basically touched on near the end with the quote and with the people that I follow.
Yeah.
And I love Hugh's comment, male confidence.
Yeah.
I love that, because I can only speak for men. If you are ever feeling really depressed or really low or really sad on yourself, discover what it is that's making you feel that way. Typically, I believe that if you're feeling sad or depressed, that means something's not right in your life, whether it be your stature, or where you are physically, or financially, or even spiritually. Something's awry, something's not right. So evaluate yourself and figure out what it is that you need to do to become better. Even if it's something that you don't want to do it anyways, so that you can understand. So then you can have more confidence.
I like it. Yeah, for those that are watching, I appreciate you being on here. Your comments are everything. This is a demonstration of a way of being to live in, for men especially, live into your masculine. Be that masculine man, and a philosophy that'll help you do that. And so, as we always say, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time, and you're doing what you need to be doing. And there's no requirement really to be any of it, but there's a ton of potential there. And it's up to you whether you want to act into that or not, or intend into it. And so we what we strive to do here is give demonstrations of what's possible for you in somebody else's story. Mm-hmm. and filter through, just like you're going to do, Kyle, after the show, is sit with some of these things and say, that works for me, that doesn't work for me. Then you're going to filter through, and people are going to do that with this show. They're going to say, I like this, I don't like that. I'm going to hang on to this, I'm not going to take that. So I think it's a powerful thing, and we need to have more conversations like this. This is the way we grow as a culture, society. Absolutely. And I appreciate you being on here. Thank you for joining us and being a part of this program. For those that are watching, we love you. Find somebody that could benefit from this message today and share it with them. Go back and rewatch it and listen for the nuggets that are in there. And there are a ton. And Kyle, thank you for being who you are in the world. Thanks for being a part of the Giants. And for everybody else, we'll see you in the next episode. Go make it a giant day.